The van smelled like old metal and fear. Amaya's heart beat so fast it hurt her chest. Her hands were tied behind her back. A rough cloth covered her eyes. She couldn't see anything, but her big brain still worked. She counted the bumps in the road. 1, 2, 3. The engine made a low rumbling sound. It was a diesel engine, she thought. That meant a heavy vehicle. Maybe they were going far. She tried to remember the turns. Left, then straight for a long time. Then right. Her science brain always worked, even when she was this scared. She was supposed to be at the university library tonight, finishing her neuroscience research about how the brain remembers fear. Now, she was living that fear. The van stopped. Amaya heard heavy footsteps. The door opened with a loud metal screech. Strong hands grabbed her arms and pulled her out. Her legs shook. "Move," a deep voice said. It wasn't mean, just cold, like ice. She walked forward because the hands pushed her. She felt smooth floor under her feet. Not dirt, not rough, expensive floor. Then the hands stopped her. She stood very still. Her whole body shook. "Boss, we got her," the cold voice said. "The Bellini girl, just like you wanted." There was silence. Then she heard footsteps. Slow, confident. Each step sounded like power. The footsteps stopped right in front of her. She could feel someone very close. She smelled expensive cologne and something darker. Danger. "Take it off," a new voice said. This voice was different. Deep and smooth like dark chocolate. But there was something else in it. Something that made her skin feel hot and cold at the same time. The blindfold came off. Bright light made her eyes hurt. She blinked fast. Then she saw him. "Before you plunge deeper into Amaya and Carlos's twisted world, tell me, where are you watching this story unfold from?" Drop a comment below. Carlos Marcello stood 3 feet away. He was the most beautiful and most terrifying man she had ever seen. Tall. So tall she had to look up. Broad shoulders in a perfect black suit. Dark hair brushed back from his face. Strong jaw. Lips that looked cruel. But his eyes were what made her breath stop. They were dark, almost black, and they looked at her like she was the only thing in the whole world, like a wolf looking at something it wanted to eat, or keep, or both. "This is not Amelia Bellini," Carlos said. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the room froze. Amaya looked around fast. Big office, huge desk, expensive everything, windows showing the city lights far below, and men. 4 big men in suits standing around the room. All of them looked scared of the man in front of her. "Boss, we grabbed her outside the Bellini estate, just like," the cold-voiced man started. "I said," Carlos interrupted, still quiet, still deadly, "this is not Amelia Bellini." His eyes never left Amaya's face. He moved closer. 1 step. She wanted to step back, but her legs wouldn't move. He reached out 1 hand. She flinched, but he just touched her chin, lifted her face up. His fingers were warm, gentle. That confused her more than anything. "What's your name?" he asked. His thumb brushed her cheek. Her whole body felt that touch like fire. Amaya," she whispered. Her voice shook. "Amaya Jones." "Amaya," he repeated, like he was tasting her name. "And what do you do, Amaya Jones?" I'm a doctoral student, neuroscience, at the university." Her brain told her to stop talking, but his eyes made her want to answer everything. "The brain," Carlos said. A small smile touched his lips. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a smile that said he'd just found something valuable. "You study the brain. You're smart." "Please," Amaya said. She tried to sound brave. Her voice still shook, but she kept talking. Please, you have the wrong person. I don't know any Bellini family. I was just walking to my car. I don't have money. My family doesn't have money. I can't. There's no reason to keep me. Carlos stared at her. For a long, long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Carlos turned to the cold-voiced man. Marco, bring me the Bellini file. Marco, the cold-voiced man, moved fast. He grabbed a thick folder from the desk and handed it to Carlos. Carlos opened it, looked at a photo, looked at Amaya, looked at the photo again. Then he did something that made everyone in the room gasp. He walked to a metal trash can in the corner. He held the folder over it, and he pulled out a silver lighter. Boss, that's 6 months of planning, another man started. Carlos flicked the lighter. Flames ate the folder. The papers turned black and curled. Smoke rose up. Carlos watched it burn with no expression on his face. Then he turned back to Amaya. He walked toward her again. This time she did step back. But he kept coming. Step, 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 until her back hit the wall. He put one hand on the wall beside her head, leaned in close, so close she could feel his breath on her face. I don't care about Amelia Bellini anymore, Carlos said. His voice was rough now, different, hot instead of cold. I don't care about her father's money or his secrets or his business. His other hand touched her face again, cupped her cheek. His thumb traced her lips. This was supposed to be a mistake, he continued. His eyes looked at her mouth, then her eyes, then her mouth again. The wrong girl in the wrong place. But I don't believe in mistakes anymore. What? What do you mean? Amaya whispered. Her heart beat so hard she thought he could probably hear it. Carlos smiled. A real smile this time. It made him look younger, and so much more dangerous. I mean, he said softly, leaning even closer until his lips almost touched her ear. She's mine now. The words hit her like lightning. Mine. She opened her mouth to argue, to say she wasn't anyone's, that you couldn't just own a person. But before she could speak, Carlos pulled back. He looked at Marco. Take her to the East Wing, the Blue Room. It has the best view. His voice was back to being the boss voice, cold, commanding. Station 2 guards outside. Nobody goes in but Maria with food and me. Yes, boss, Marco said. And Marco, Carlos added, turning back to look at Amaya one more time. His eyes burned into hers. If anyone touches her, talks to her wrong, even looks at her too long, bring them to me. Personally. The threat in those words was clear. Marco nodded fast. Understood, boss. Wait, Amaya said. Her voice was louder now. The shock was wearing off. The fear was still there, but anger was rising up too. Wait, you can't just... I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. You kidnapped me. That's illegal. That's my business, Carlos said. He tilted his head, studying her. You ask a lot of questions. That's good. Smart girls ask questions. He walked to his desk, sat down in the big leather chair like he was a king on a throne. Here's your answer, Amaya Jones. Yes, I kidnapped you. Yes, you're here against your will. And yes, you're mine now. Those are the facts. But why? She demanded. Her hands were still tied, but she stood as straight and tall as she could. Why would you keep me? You said yourself I'm the wrong girl. You burned the file. So let me go. I won't tell anyone, I promise. I'll just disappear and... No. One word. Flat and final. No? She repeated. Just no? That's all? That's all, Carlos agreed. He leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers under his chin. You want more explanation? Fine, I'll give you one. I looked for Amelia Bellini because she was leverage, a tool, something to use against her father. When I saw you instead, I realized something. Tools break. Tools are temporary. But you... He paused. His eyes traveled over her face, her body, her whole self, with an intensity that made her feel naked, even fully clothed. You are not a tool. You're a treasure. That big brain of yours. That fire in your eyes even though you're terrified. The way you stand tall and ask brave questions when most people would be crying on the floor. I don't find treasures often, and when I do, I keep them. Amaya's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. What could she say to that? He was insane. He had to be. I can see you thinking I'm crazy, Carlos said with a small smile. You're wrong. I'm the most sane man you'll ever meet. I know what I want. I take what I want, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. You'll learn that, Amaya. You'll learn it fast. He nodded to Marco. Take her. Make sure she has everything she needs. Books, clothes, computer with supervised internet. She's smart. She'll want to keep her brain busy. Marco grabbed Amaya's arm, not rough, but firm, started pulling her towards the door. She dug her feet in. Wait, she called out. Carlos looked up, raised one eyebrow. What about the real target? Amaya asked. Her voice shook, but she had to know. What about Amelia Bellini? Are you going to send someone after her now? Carlos stood up, walked around the desk, came close again. This time Marco didn't move away. Carlos reached out and untied the rope around Amaya's wrists. The rope fell to the floor. He rubbed her wrist gently where the rope had left red marks. The tenderness of the gesture made her more confused than anything else he'd done. I'm not sending anyone after Amelia Bellini, Carlos said quietly, still holding her wrists, still rubbing soft circles with his thumbs. She doesn't matter anymore. She never mattered. Not really. But you... He lifted one of her hands to his lips, kissed her knuckles. His eyes locked onto hers. You're too valuable to ever let go. Do you understand? You could have 1,000,000 ransoms on your head, and I still wouldn't trade you. You're not leaving. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Then he released her hand and stepped back, nodded to Marco again. This time Marco pulled her out of the room before she could find any words at all. The blue room was beautiful. That was the first confusing thing. It wasn't a dungeon or a basement or a cold cell. It was a bedroom that looked like it belonged in a palace. Huge bed with soft blue blankets and 1,000,000 pillows. Thick carpet under her feet. Windows that went from floor to ceiling, showing the city spread out below like scattered diamonds. A bathroom with a tub big enough for 3 people, and a shower that had more controls than her lab equipment. A desk. A bookshelf that was already full of books. Science books, she realized when she got closer. Neuroscience texts, astrophysics journals. Some of them were the exact ones she'd been wanting to read but couldn't afford. There was even a framed picture on the desk. She picked it up, blinked. It was a photo of a brain scan. Beautiful colors showing active neurons. It was the kind of thing she loved. The kind of thing that made sense to her. How did he know? How did Carlos know what she would want? She heard the lock click behind her, spun around. Marco stood by the door. His face was blank. Stone. No emotion at all. The boss said you get everything you need, Marco said. His voice was the same cold voice from the van. Food comes 3 times a day. Maria the cook makes good food. You want books, you tell Maria. You want clothes, you tell Maria. You want anything, you tell Maria. Not me. Not the other guards. Maria. I want to leave, Amaya said. She crossed her arms. Can Maria get me that? Marco's expression didn't change. No. Only the boss can give you that. And he won't. This is kidnapping, Amaya said. Her voice was getting louder. Shock was really wearing off now. This is illegal. People will look for me. The university knows I was supposed to be at the library. They'll call the police, the FBI. Someone will. No one is looking for you, Marco interrupted. Still no emotion, just facts. The boss already handled it. Your university got an email from your account saying you had a family emergency. Had to leave town fast. Your apartment got a notice that you'd be gone for a while. Your phone is at the bottom of the river. No one is coming. The words hit her like a punch. She sat down hard on the bed. Her legs just gave out. He'd thought of everything. Of course he had. Men like Carlos Marcello didn't get powerful by being sloppy. How long, she whispered. How long will I be here? As long as the boss wants, Marco said. Then he did something unexpected. His stone face softened, just a tiny bit, just for a second. For what it's worth, you could have been grabbed by someone worse. The boss doesn't hurt women. He's not that kind of man. You're safe from that, at least. Safe, Amaya repeated. She almost laughed, but it came out as a sob. I'm kidnapped and locked in a room, but I'm safe. That makes total sense. Marco said nothing, just watched her. You should rest, he finally said. Tomorrow the boss will talk to you about your new job. New job? Amaya looked up. What new job? The boss doesn't keep useless things, Marco said. He turned to the door. He said you're valuable. He'll find a way to use that big brain of yours. That's better than being just a prisoner, isn't it? He left before she could answer. The lock clicked again. Amaya sat on the bed in the beautiful blue room and tried not to cry. She wouldn't give Carlos Marcello her tears. But she did let herself feel the fear, the confusion, the strange, terrifying flutter in her stomach when she remembered his eyes, his touch, his words. She's mine now. She stood up, walked to the windows, put her hand on the glass. The city was out there. Freedom was out there. But she was in here, in a golden cage with a view of everything she couldn't have. She thought about the brain. Her brain. The thing she understood better than anything else. The brain responds to patterns, to stimuli, to reward and punishment. Classical conditioning, Pavlov's dogs. Was that what Carlos was doing? Giving her beautiful things and gentle touches to condition her into accepting this? Her brain said yes. Probably yes. But her brain also said something else. Something that scared her more than anything else that had happened tonight. When Carlos touched her face, when he looked at her like she was the most important thing in the world, when he called her a treasure. A tiny, traitorous part of her had liked it. She pushed that thought away fast, locked it in a box in her mind. She was a scientist. She would treat this like a problem to solve. She would observe, gather data, find a pattern, find a weakness, and she would escape. She had to, because the alternative was staying here with a man who looked at her like she was air and water and everything necessary for life. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The next morning came with sunlight and the smell of food. Amaya woke up confused. For a second she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered everything. The van. Carlos. The claim. She sat up fast. She was still wearing her clothes from yesterday. She'd been too afraid to change, even though there was a closet full of clothes in her exact size. That should have creeped her out more, but she was too tired to process it last night. Now in the daylight, the fear came back fresh and sharp. The door opened. Amaya tensed. But it wasn't Carlos or Marco. It was a small round woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a bun. She carried a tray that smelled like heaven. "Good morning, sweetheart," the woman said. Her voice was warm, like a grandmother's voice. "I'm Maria. I brought you breakfast." She set the tray on the desk. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, orange juice, coffee, real food. Amaya's stomach growled loud. She hadn't eaten since lunch yesterday. "Thank you," Amaya said quietly. Maria smiled. "You're polite. That's good. Eat. You need your strength." Amaya wanted to refuse, wanted to throw the food and demand to be let go. But her body was smarter than her pride. She sat at the desk and ate. Everything was delicious. Perfect. Of course it was. Carlos Marcello probably had the best cook in the city. "How long have you worked here?" Amaya asked between bites. Maybe Maria would give her information. Clues. Maria sat on the edge of the bed, folded her hands in her lap. 15 years. Since Carlos was just a young man taking over his father's business. His father was... Amaya trailed off. "A bad man," Maria finished simply. "Cruel. Cold. He hurt people for fun. Carlos is not like his father. He's hard, yes. Dangerous, yes. But there's good in him. Hidden deep, but it's there." "He kidnapped me," Amaya said flatly. "That's not good." "No," Maria agreed. "It's not. But he could have done much worse. He could have hurt you, used you, thrown you away when he was done. But he didn't. He won't." "How do you know?" Amaya demanded. Maria's eyes went soft, sad. "Because I've seen him with things he wants to keep. He protects them, obsesses over them, makes sure they have everything. He doesn't just take, child. He claims. And what Carlos claims, he keeps safe, even from himself." The words made Amaya's skin prickle. "That's not romantic. That's terrifying." "Yes," Maria said. "It's both. Love and fear. They're not so different sometimes." She stood up, smoothed her apron. "He'll come for you soon. He wants to give you work. Something for that smart brain. My advice, do the work. Make yourself valuable. The more he needs you, the more freedom you'll get. And maybe, in time, you'll see what I see, that he only protects what he loves." Maria left before Amaya could respond. The door locked again. Amaya sat very still. The food suddenly felt heavy in her stomach. He only protects what he loves. That was insane. Carlos didn't love her. He didn't even know her. He wanted to own her, possess her. That wasn't love. But then why did he send her science books? Why did he touch her so gently? Why did he look at her like she was precious? She shook her head hard. No, she wouldn't fall for this. This was manipulation, psychology. She knew how it worked. Create a threat, then become the protector. Make the victim depend on the captor. Stockholm Syndrome. She wouldn't let that happen. The door opened again. This time it was Carlos. He looked different in the daylight. Still dangerous. Still beautiful. But less like a nightmare, and more like a real man. He wore dark jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. She could see tattoos on his forearms. Black ink in patterns she couldn't quite make out from across the room. "Good morning, Amaya," he said. His voice was softer than last night, almost gentle. "Did you sleep?" "No," she lied. She actually had slept, deep and dreamless, exhausted. But she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. He smiled like he knew she was lying. You'll sleep better tonight. The first night is always the hardest. He walked into the room, closed the door behind him. Didn't lock it, she noticed. That was interesting. I have a job for you, Carlos said. He pulled the desk chair out and sat down backwards on it, arms crossed over the back, facing her where she sat on the bed. Casual, like they were friends. I don't want a job, Amaya said. She lifted her chin. I want to go home. Can't do that, Carlos said simply, but I can give you purpose, something to do, something that uses your intelligence. Or you can sit in this room and go slowly crazy. Your choice. Amaya hated that he was right. She would go crazy with nothing to do. Her brain needed work, puzzles, problems. What kind of job? She asked carefully. Carlos leaned forward, his dark eyes locked onto hers. I have enemies. Men who want to take what I've built. They hide behind legal businesses and fake papers and shell companies. I need someone who can look at their data, their patterns, their money trails, and tell me what they're really doing. I need someone who can see patterns others miss. Someone with a brain like yours. You want me to help you commit crimes, Amaya said. No, I want you to help me stop crimes against me, Carlos corrected. Everything I'll show you is already happening. I'm not asking you to hurt anyone. I'm asking you to solve puzzles. Use your science brain to find patterns in human behavior. Isn't that what neuroscience is? Understanding why people do what they do? He wasn't wrong. That was exactly what neuroscience was. And if I say no, Amaya asked. Carlos shrugged. Then you stay in this room with nothing to do until you say yes. I'm a patient man. I can wait, but I think you'll be bored by day 3. He was right. She would be. She hated being bored worse than almost anything. If I do this work, Amaya said slowly, thinking hard, do I get anything in return? Carlos smiled. Full smile this time. It made him look almost boyish, almost safe. Smart girl, negotiating already. I like that. Yes, you do this work, you get rewards. Computer with full internet under supervision. More freedom in the house, books, anything you want that I can give you. Except leaving. That's not on the table. Why? Amaya demanded. The question burst out of her. Why me? Why keep me? You could hire 100 analysts with the money you probably have. You could... They wouldn't be you, Carlos interrupted. He stood up, walked closer to the bed, sat down on the edge of it, close enough that she could smell his cologne again, close enough to feel the heat of his body. I told you last night, you're not a tool, you're a treasure. I don't want just your brain, Amaya. I want all of you, your questions, your fire, the way you look at me like I'm a monster and a man at the same time. That's rare. That's real. I'm surrounded by people who pretend, who lie, who smile and plot behind my back. But you can't hide what you're feeling. It's all there in your eyes. He reached out, touched her face again. She should pull away. She knew she should, but she didn't. I'm keeping you because the moment I saw you, something in me said, mine, Carlos continued. His thumb brushed her cheek. And I always listened to that voice. It's kept me alive, kept me powerful. And now it's telling me that you're the most important thing I'll ever own. I'm not a thing, Amaya whispered. Her voice was shaky. No, Carlos agreed. You're much more than that. You're everything. Then he stood up. The moment broke. He was back to being the boss. Controlled. Distant. The work starts in 1 hour. Marco will bring you to my office. Dress comfortably. You'll be there a while. He walked to the door, paused, looked back. And Amaya? Thank you. For what? She asked, confused. For not crying. For not begging. For being exactly as strong as I thought you'd be. Then he left. And Amaya sat on the bed and tried very, very hard not to let his words warm the cold fear in her chest. The work was actually interesting. Amaya hated that. She wanted it to be boring, or evil, or something she could morally reject. But it wasn't. Carlos spread papers and computer files across a huge table in his office. Financial records, shipping manifests, phone records, lists of names and places and times. This man, Carlos said, pointing to a photo of a middle-aged man with cold eyes, is Victor Petrov. He runs a shipping company. Legal, on paper. But he's been moving drugs through my territory without permission. Without paying the tax he owes. I need to know his patterns, when he ships, where he ships, who he works with. Can you find it? Amaya looked at the mess of data. Her brain immediately started organizing it, sorting it, looking for connections. This was what she did, what she loved, finding patterns in chaos. I'll need a computer, she said. Spreadsheets, database software, and coffee. Lots of coffee. Carlos smiled. Done? He snapped his fingers. Marco appeared from somewhere. Get her whatever she needs. For the next 6 hours, Amaya fell into her work. She built spreadsheets, tracked shipment dates, cross-referenced phone calls with shipping times, found patterns in the seemingly random data, and slowly, a picture emerged. Victor Petrov was smart, but not smart enough. He had a pattern. Every third Tuesday, small shipments hidden inside legal cargo, always through the same dock, always using the same truck driver. The pattern was there once you knew how to look. Found it, Amaya said. She didn't realize how late it was until she looked up and saw that the sun had set. Carlos was sitting at his desk, working on his own papers. But the moment she spoke, his full attention snapped to her. Show me, he said. She explained her findings, showed him the spreadsheets, the connections, the pattern. Carlos listened with complete focus. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. You're magnificent, he said simply. Amaya's face got hot. She looked away. It's just pattern recognition. Basic data analysis. It's genius, Carlos corrected. He stood up, walked around the table to where she sat, put his hands on the back of her chair, caging her in. You did in 6 hours what my best people couldn't do in 3 weeks. Do you understand how valuable that makes you? Valuable to your criminal empire, Amaya said. She tried to sound bitter, angry, but she was too tired and too pleased with herself to pull it off. Carlos laughed, actually laughed. The sound was warm and real. Yes, to my criminal empire, but also to me. You're not just smart, Amaya. You're exceptional. He leaned down. His face was close to hers. So close. Thank you for your work today. You've earned your rewards. Starting tomorrow, you can move freely through this floor of the house. Computer access with supervision. Any books you want. And this. He pulled something from his pocket. A phone. Brand new. It only calls my number and Maria's. No one else. But you can call me anytime. Day or night. If you need something, if you're scared, if you just want to talk, I'll answer. Amaya took the phone, stared at it. This was more manipulation, she knew. Give her small freedoms to make her compliant. but it was still freedom, still connection, still something. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "I told you. You're mine. I take care of what's mine." His fingers touched her hair, gently, like she was something delicate. "You did good work today. I reward good work." "And if I do bad work?" Amaya asked. She looked up at him. Their eyes met, held. Carlos's smile faded. His expression went serious, dark. "Then I'd be disappointed. But I wouldn't hurt you. I don't hurt what's mine. I protect it, even from itself." The intensity in his voice made her shiver. This wasn't normal. This was insane. But somehow it was more honest than anything else in her life had ever been. Marco appeared in the doorway. "Boss, we have a situation." Carlos's jaw tightened. He looked at Amaya, then at Marco. "What situation?" "Vito. He tried to enter the East Wing. Said he wanted to check on the girl. I stopped him, but he got mouthy about it. Said you were going soft. Said she was just another—" Marco stopped, glanced at Amaya. He said disrespectful things. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Carlos's whole body went still, scary still, like a predator before it strikes. "Where's Vito now?" Carlos asked. His voice was quiet, deadly. "Downstairs, waiting." Carlos straightened, rolled his shoulders. "Good." He looked at Amaya. His eyes were different now, colder, harder. This was the Mafia boss, not the man who touched her gently. "Marco, take Amaya back to her room, now." "Wait," Amaya said. She stood up. "What are you going to do to Vito?" Carlos tilted his head. "I'm going to teach him a lesson about respect." "Don't hurt him," Amaya said. She didn't know why she said it. Vito sounded awful, but the look in Carlos's eyes scared her. "He disrespected you," Carlos said simply. "No one disrespects what's mine." "I'm not yours," Amaya said, but the words sounded weak even to her own ears. Carlos moved fast. Suddenly, he was right in front of her, his hand cupping her face, tilting it up. "Yes, you are. And the sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." Then he released her, nodded to Marco. "Take her. Make sure she doesn't hear anything." Marco grabbed Amaya's arm, not rough, but firm, started pulling her toward the door. She looked back. Carlos was already on his phone, speaking low and fast in Italian. She caught a few words. Basement, lesson, permanent. The door closed. Marco led her down hallways, back to the blue room. "What's he going to do?" Amaya asked. Her voice was small. Marco's stone face didn't change. But he answered. "Vito disrespected you. That means he disrespected the boss. In this world, that has consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Amaya pressed. Marco stopped at her door, unlocked it, looked at her with something that might have been pity. "The permanent kind. Vito won't be working here anymore. Won't be working anywhere." The implications hit her. "You mean he's going to?" She couldn't finish. Marco said nothing, just gently pushed her into the room. "The boss protects what he values. That's not cruelty. That's the rules. Vito knew the rules. He broke them anyway." "Because of me," Amaya whispered. "No," Marco said firmly. "Because of Vito's own stupidity. Don't take that weight. You didn't ask for this. The boss made you his. That changed everything. Vito should have respected that." He started to close the door. Amaya grabbed it. "Marco, is Carlos a good man?" Marco looked at her for a long moment. "No, the boss is not a good man. Good men don't survive in this world. But he's not a monster either. He has lines he won't cross, rules he follows. And when he cares about something, he cares completely, obsessively, dangerously. You're the thing he cares about now. That makes you the safest and most dangerous person in this house. Then he closed the door, locked it. Amaya sat on the bed, put her head in her hands. She'd been here one day, and already someone was being hurt because of her. Because Carlos had decided she was his. This was insane. She needed to escape. But even as she thought it, another voice in her head whispered, "Where would you go? Back to your tiny apartment? Your mountain of student debt? Your lonely research that nobody cared about? Here, you're valued. Here, you're precious. Here, someone looks at you like you're the sun and the moon and every star." She shook her head hard. That was the manipulation talking. The Stockholm Syndrome starting to take root. She couldn't let it. But when she lay down on the soft bed in the beautiful room and closed her eyes, the last thing she thought about wasn't freedom. It was the way Carlos looked at her, like she was everything. She fell asleep and dreamed of dark eyes and gentle hands and a voice that called her mine. 3 weeks passed. Amaya fell into a routine that felt disturbingly normal. Wake up, eat Maria's delicious breakfast, work on Carlos's business problems, eat lunch with Maria, who told stories about Carlos as a young man, work more, eat dinner, sometimes alone, sometimes with Carlos in his office, both of them working in comfortable silence. The house became familiar. She learned its sounds and smells and rhythms. She learned the names of the guards. Most of them were polite, respectful. They called her Miss Amaya and stepped aside when she walked through the halls. Vito's disappearance had sent a clear message. She tried not to think about what had happened to him. She had more freedom now. The whole third floor was open to her. Library, home gym, even a small greenhouse full of plants. Carlos had told her that his mother had loved plants, had built this greenhouse before she died. That small piece of personal information had surprised her, made him more human. She hated that. The work was challenging and engaging. Carlos brought her more complex problems, patterns in employee behavior that suggested betrayal, financial irregularities that pointed to embezzlement. Once he even asked her to analyze interrogation footage to determine if someone was lying. She was good at it, all of it. Her neuroscience training made her able to read micro-expressions, stress responses, patterns of deception. She was valuable, and Carlos made sure she knew it. He praised her constantly, brought her gifts, books, a new laptop, once a telescope because she'd mentioned she liked looking at stars. The gifts confused her. They felt personal, like he was trying to know her, trying to make her happy, not just keeping her prisoner. That was the most dangerous part. He came to her room every night before bed, just for a few minutes. Sometimes he asked about her day. Sometimes he told her about his. Sometimes they just sat in silence, him in the desk chair, her on the bed, existing in the same space. She started to look forward to these visits, started to feel strange when he was gone. That scared her more than anything else. On a Thursday morning, everything changed. Amaya was working in Carlos's office when Marco burst in without knocking. His stone face was cracked. He looked worried. "Boss, we have a problem. FBI." Carlos's whole body tensed. "Here?" "No. They picked up Isabella, downtown. They're questioning her about the gallery finances." Isabella was Carlos's younger sister. Amaya had met her twice. Brilliant woman, sharp and funny and kind. She ran the legal side of Carlos's businesses, the art gallery, the import company, the restaurants, all legitimate, all clean, or supposed to be. Carlos stood up fast. His chair rolled back and hit the wall. On what grounds? They're saying money laundering, saying the gallery is a front. They have a warrant. They're going through everything. Marco's voice was tight, worried. Amaya had never seen him worried before. Carlos's face went cold, scary cold, the kind of cold that meant violence was coming. Get the lawyer. Get everyone. I want Isabella out in 2 hours and find out who talked. Someone gave them information, someone inside. Already on it, boss. And Marco, Carlos said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. When we find who talked, bring them to me, alive. I want to handle that personally. Marco nodded and left. Carlos stood very still, his hands curled into fists. Amaya could see the rage building in him like a storm. Carlos, she said softly. He didn't respond, didn't even look at her. Carlos, she repeated, louder this time. His eyes snapped to her. They were dark, empty. The man who brought her telescopes was gone. This was the Mafia Boss, the dangerous one, the killer. Not now, Amaya, he said. His voice was flat. I have to handle this. How? She asked. She stood up from the table, walked closer to him. How are you going to handle it? The way I handle everything, Carlos said. With power, with fear, with whatever it takes to protect my family. Including murder, Amaya said quietly. It wasn't a question. Carlos smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. If necessary. Yes. Amaya's heart pounded. This was the moment. She could stay silent. Let him do what he was going to do. Keep her head down and stay safe in her golden cage. Or she could try. Try to reach the man who touched her gently. Who looked at her like she mattered. Who told her she was everything. There's another way, she said. Carlos laughed. It was a harsh sound. No, there isn't. This is my world, Amaya. You don't understand how it works. Then explain it to me, she demanded. She moved closer, put herself directly in front of him. Explain why violence is the only option. Explain why you can't fight this with lawyers and legal pressure and legitimate means. Because that's not how power works here, Carlos said. His voice was rising, getting angry. Because if I show weakness, if I let someone attack my family and respond with lawyers, every other enemy will see that as an invitation. They'll come for me, for Isabella, for... He stopped, looked at her. For you. The words hung in the air between them. For you. So this is about protecting me too, Amaya said. She understood. Of course she understood. He'd wrapped her so completely into his world that threats to him were threats to her. That's what possession meant. Everything is about protecting you, Carlos said. He grabbed her shoulders, not rough, but firm, desperate. Don't you understand that yet? The moment I claimed you, you became the most important thing in my entire empire. More important than money, more important than territory, more important than anything. And if someone threatens you, even indirectly, I will burn the world down to keep you safe. His intensity should have scared her. It did scare her. But it also made something warm unfold in her chest, something she didn't want to name. Then listen to me, Amaya said. She put her hands on his chest, felt his heart racing under her palms. Listen to me, Carlos. Using violence now will make everything worse. The FBI is watching. They're waiting for you to do exactly what you're planning. They want you to make a mistake, to prove you're the criminal they think you are. I am the criminal they think I am, Carlos said flatly. Maybe, Amaya agreed. But Isabella isn't. And if you react with violence, you'll drag her down with you. You'll prove everything they're investigating. But if you fight this the right way, the legal way, you protect her. You protect yourself. You protect me. Carlos stared at her. She could see the war in his eyes, the old instincts fighting with something new, something she'd planted. I don't know how to fight that way, he finally said. His voice was quieter, raw. Then learn, Amaya said. She squeezed his chest. You told me I'm valuable. You told me my brain is worth keeping. So use it. Use me. Let me help you find another way. And if there is no other way, Carlos asked. Then you'll still have your violence as a backup plan, Amaya said. But try my way first. Please. The word please seemed to break something in him. His hands moved from her shoulders to her face, cupping her cheeks, tilting her head up. You're asking me to go against everything I am, he said softly. I'm asking you to be more than what you are, Amaya corrected. I'm asking you to be brave enough to change. Carlos closed his eyes, breathed deep. When he opened them again, they were different, softer, more human. Okay, he said, your way. But if they hurt Isabella, if they hurt you, if this fails and people I love pay the price, then my way comes back. Fast, hard, final. Do you understand? I understand, Amaya said. Carlos pulled her closer, rested his forehead against hers. They stood like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, sharing the same space. You're changing me, he whispered. I don't know if that's good or bad yet. It's necessary, Amaya whispered back. You can't keep living in a world of violence forever. Eventually, it'll destroy you. And I don't want to watch that happen. Why not? Carlos asked. He pulled back just enough to see her face. Why do you care what happens to me? I kidnapped you. I'm keeping you prisoner. You should hate me. Amaya opened her mouth to agree. To say yes, she hated him, but the words wouldn't come. Because they weren't true anymore. Somewhere in the past 3 weeks, something had shifted. She didn't hate him. She should. She knew she should. But she didn't. I don't know, she finally said. It was the most honest answer she had. Carlos smiled, a real smile, sad and beautiful. That's the best answer you could have given. Then he released her, stepped back, became the boss again. Marco, he called. Marco appeared in seconds. Get our best lawyer, the expensive one, the one who handles federal cases. I want him at the FBI office now. And get me everyone we have on the inside. Every contact, every favor owed. We're fighting this clean. Marco's eyebrows rose, just slightly, but it was shock on his usually stone face. Clean, boss? Clean, Carlos confirmed. He glanced at Amaya. Someone convinced me to try a new approach. Marco looked at Amaya. Something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes. Yes, boss, right away. He left. Carlos turned back to Amaya. Now what? Now we prove Isabella is innocent, Amaya said. She walked back to the table, looked at her computer. Do you have access to all the gallery's financial records? Everything? Even the parts the FBI has? Yes, Carlos said. Everything is backed up in multiple secure locations. Then give it to me, Amaya said. She cracked her knuckles. Her brain was already racing. Give me everything. Every transaction. Every receipt. Every piece of paper. I'll find the real pattern. I'll show you where the legitimate money comes from and where any questionable money went. and we'll use that to prove Isabella had nothing to do with it." Carlos stared at her. "You'd do that? Help me protect my family?" "I'm helping you stay out of a war that will get people killed," Amaya said. But that wasn't the whole truth. She was helping because she cared, because Isabella had been kind to her, because Carlos loved his sister, and Amaya couldn't stand the thought of him losing someone he loved, because somewhere along the way, his world had become her world too. "Thank you," Carlos said quietly. Then, so softly, she almost didn't hear it, "I don't deserve you." "No," Amaya agreed. "You really don't." But she smiled when she said it, and Carlos smiled back. And for the first time since she'd been taken, Amaya felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't entirely a prisoner anymore. For the next 48 hours, Amaya barely slept. She lived in Carlos's office, surrounded by financial records and spreadsheets and data. Maria brought her food, coffee, more coffee. Carlos worked beside her, making phone calls, coordinating with lawyers, using every legitimate contact he had to put pressure on the FBI investigation. It was strange, working together like this, partners instead of captor and prisoner. He asked her opinion on things, listened when she explained her findings, trusted her judgment, and slowly, piece by piece, she built a case. The gallery was legitimate, completely legitimate. Every painting sold could be traced to a real artist, a real buyer, a real transaction. The money was clean. But there was a problem. 6 months ago, someone had made a series of small deposits into the gallery's accounts. Deposits that came from shell companies, from untraceable sources, from places that looked like money laundering. But Isabella hadn't made those deposits. "Someone set her up," Amaya said. It was 2 a.m. She was exhausted. Carlos looked worse. He hadn't slept at all. "Who?" Carlos asked. His voice was rough, dangerous. "I don't know yet," Amaya said. "But the deposits all came through one bank account, and that account is registered to—" She pulled up the records, squinted at the screen. "Marco Vitti?" Carlos went very still. "That's not possible." "Why not?" Amaya asked. "Marco Vitti is dead," Carlos said flatly. "He was my father's accountant. He died 3 years ago. Car accident." "Then someone is using his identity," Amaya said. She kept digging. The pattern was there. Hidden but visible once you knew where to look. Someone inside Carlos's organization had access to old accounts, old names, and they'd use them to frame Isabella, to set up the FBI investigation, to create chaos. "Who had access to your father's old files?" Amaya asked. Carlos's jaw clenched. "Only 4 people. Me, Isabella, my lawyer, and Antonio." "Who's Antonio?" Amaya asked. "My father's oldest friend," Carlos said. His voice was cold now, hard. "He's been with his family for 30 years. He's like an uncle of me. He wouldn't—" "The data doesn't lie," Amaya interrupted. She showed him the screen, the patterns, the connections. Someone with access to those old accounts set up Isabella. And if it's not you, and it's not Isabella, and your lawyer has been with you during all of this, then it's Antonio," Carlos finished. He stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the dark city. His hands were shaking. Amaya had never seen his hands shake before. "Why would he do this?" Carlos asked. He sounded lost, young, more vulnerable than she'd ever heard him. "I don't know," Amaya said. She went to him, put her hand on his back, felt the tension in his muscles. "But we can find out. We can prove it. And then we can clear Isabella's name." Carlos turned, looked down at her. If this is true, if Antonio betrayed me, betrayed my family, my father's memory. He stopped, swallowed hard. I'll want to kill him. You understand that? I won't be able to use your clean legal way. Not for this. Amaya knew he was right. She could see it in his eyes. The violence waiting there. The rage. But she also saw the hurt. The betrayal. Then we make sure we're right first, Amaya said. We gather all the evidence. We prove it beyond doubt. And then you decide what to do. But Carlos, she touched his face, made him look at her. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. I won't judge you. This isn't about me asking you to change who you are. This is about being smart. Being sure. Can you do that? Carlos covered her hand with his, pressed it harder against his face. I can try. For you. I can try. He pulled her into his arms, held her tight. Amaya stiffened for just a second, then relaxed. Let herself be held. It felt good. Safe. Even though he was the danger, he was also the safety. That paradox didn't make sense, but nothing about this made sense anymore. Thank you, Carlos whispered into her hair, for helping me, for stopping me from making everything worse, for being what I needed when I needed it. You're welcome, Amaya whispered back. They stood like that for a long time. Then Carlos's phone rang. He released her, answered it. Yes? His face changed as he listened, hardened. When? How? Is she okay? He was quiet for another moment. Then, bring her home, now, and get Antonio. Tell him I need to see him. Don't tell him why. He hung up, looked at Amaya. Isabella is free. The lawyer convinced them they don't have enough evidence to hold her. They're releasing her pending investigation. That's good, Amaya said. Relief flooded through her. That's very good. And now Antonio is coming here, Carlos said. His voice was empty, controlled. Marco is bringing him. He'll be here in an hour. What are you going to do? Amaya asked. Carlos smiled. It was a terrible smile. I'm going to ask him questions, and he's going to answer them, one way or another. Fear prickled down Amaya's spine. Carlos, go to your room, Amaya, Carlos said. His voice was gentle but firm. You don't need to see what comes next. No, Amaya said. She crossed her arms. If I helped you find him, I'm not hiding while you deal with it. I'm staying. Amaya, Carlos started. I'm staying, she repeated. She stood as tall as she could, met his eyes, didn't flinch. You said I'm yours. You said I'm part of your world now. So let me be part of it. All of it. Even the ugly parts. Carlos stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, you stay. But if I tell you to leave, you leave. Immediately. No questions. Do you understand? I understand, Amaya said. Carlos pulled her close again, kissed the top of her head. It was a soft gesture, tender, at odds with the violence she knew was coming. You're too brave for your own good, he murmured. I learn from the best, Amaya said, and she meant it. Antonio arrived exactly 1 hour later. He was an old man, 70 at least, gray hair, kind eyes, warm smile. He hugged Carlos like family. My boy, Antonio said. His voice was warm and affectionate. I heard about Isabella. Such terrible trouble. But she's home now, yes? Safe? She's safe, Carlos said. His voice was neutral, controlled. Come, sit. We need to talk. Antonio's smile faltered slightly. Talk? At 3 a.m? This must be serious. It is, Carlos said. He gestured to a chair in the center of the office. Amaya noticed that Marco and 2 other guards had moved to block the exits. Antonio noticed too. His eyes went wary. "Carlos, what's going on?" Antonio asked. He didn't sit. Carlos walked to his desk, leaned against it, crossed his arms. Every inch the powerful boss. "I want to ask you about Marco Vitti." Antonio blinked. "Vitti? He's been dead for years." "Why?" "Because someone used his old accounts to frame Isabella," Carlos said. His voice was still controlled, but there was steel underneath. "Someone with access to my father's old files. Someone who knew the system. Someone I trusted." The color drained from Antonio's face. "Carlos, you can't think—" "Sit down," Carlos said. It wasn't loud, but it was absolute. Antonio sat. Carlos nodded to Amaya. She brought her laptop over, showed Antonio the screen, the deposits, the shell companies, the pattern. "This is you," Amaya said. Her voice was calm, scientific, presenting data. "The timing, the accounts, the method. It all points to someone with intimate knowledge of the old system. Someone who's been planning this for months." Antonio looked at the screen, then at Carlos, then at Amaya. "Who is this girl?" he asked. "This is Amaya," Carlos said. "She's mine, and she's smarter than everyone in this room combined. She found the pattern. She proved it. Now you're going to tell me why. Why betray me? Why betray Isabella? Why destroy what my father built?" Antonio was silent for a long moment. His hands shook. Then he laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Your father," Antonio said. The warmth in his voice was gone. "You want to know why? Because your father destroyed my life." Carlos didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. 30 years ago, your father and I were partners," Antonio continued. His voice was getting stronger, angrier. "Equal partners. We built this empire together. But when it came time to make it official, when it came time to split the profits and the power, your father cut me out, paid me off like a servant, like hired help. And when I complained, when I demanded what was owed to me, he threatened my family, my children. So I stayed quiet. I smiled. I served. And I waited." "So this is revenge," Carlos said. His voice was flat. "You framed my sister for crimes she didn't commit because my father cheated you 3 decades ago." "Your father is dead," Antonio spat. "I can't hurt him, but I can hurt what he loved. His children, his legacy, his empire. I wanted to watch it crumble, watch you scramble, watch you fall the way I fell." "Isabella did nothing to you," Carlos said. His hands curled into fists. "She was innocent." "So were my children when your father threatened them," Antonio shot back. "This is justice, fairness. What goes around comes around." Amaya watched Carlos's face, saw the struggle there, the rage, the hurt, the violence building like a tsunami. She stepped forward, put herself between Carlos and Antonio. "This is wrong," she said to Antonio. Her voice was clear and firm. "What Carlos's father did was wrong. But Isabella didn't do it. Carlos didn't do it. They weren't even born when your partnership fell apart. Punishing them for someone else's sins doesn't make you righteous. It makes you exactly like the man you hate." Antonio looked at her. "You don't understand our world, girl." "Maybe not," Amaya agreed. "But I understand human behavior. I study it. And what you're doing isn't justice. It's just more pain, more betrayal, more violence in an endless cycle. And it accomplishes nothing except making you into the villain." Antonio's jaw worked. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," Carlos said. His voice was cold, final. "Because you won't get it." He straightened, walked toward Antonio. Marco and the guards tensed. Amaya's heart raced. This was it. The moment. Carlos would give the order, and Antonio would disappear, would die, would become another body in the foundation of this empire. And she couldn't stop it. Antonio, Carlos said. He stopped right in front of the old man. You were like an uncle to me. I trusted you, loved you. If you'd come to me and told me about my father's betrayal, I would have made it right. I would have given you what you were owed. I'm not my father. I never was. Antonio looked up, tears in his old eyes. I know, but the hate was too strong, too old. I'm sorry, Carlos. I truly am. Carlos was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Marco, call the FBI. Amaya's head snapped up. Marco looked shocked. Boss? Call the FBI, Carlos repeated. Tell them we have evidence of the person who actually committed fraud against the gallery. Real evidence, documented and proven. We're turning it over to them, along with the person responsible. Carlos, Antonio started. You wanted justice, Carlos said. His voice was hard. You wanted to destroy me using the law. So I'll destroy you the same way. You'll go to prison, Antonio. Real prison. Federal prison. You'll spend whatever years you have left in a cell. And every day you're there, you'll remember that I could have killed you, should have killed you. But I didn't, because someone taught me there's another way. He looked at Amaya. His eyes were dark and intense, and full of something that made her heart stop. Someone taught me to be better than what I was, Carlos continued, still looking at Amaya. So that's what I'm doing, being better. For her, Amaya couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. She just stared at him. Marco made the call. Within 20 minutes, FBI agents were at the door. Carlos handed over all of Amaya's evidence. The agents arrested Antonio, read him his rights, took him away. Through it all, Carlos stood silent and still, watching his father's oldest friend be led away in handcuffs. When they were gone, when the door closed and it was just Carlos, Amaya, and Marco left in the room, Carlos turned to Amaya. I did it your way, he said. I didn't kill him. I used the system, the law, the clean way. I know, Amaya said. Her voice was shaking. I'm proud of you. Proud, Carlos repeated. He laughed. It sounded broken. I just destroyed a man I've known my whole life. Sent him to die in prison. And you're proud of me. Yes, Amaya said. She went to him, took his hands. Because you chose the hard path. The path that doesn't make you a monster. The path that lets you sleep at night. That takes more strength than violence, Carlos. It takes more courage. And you did it. Carlos pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. I did it for you, he whispered. Only for you. And Amaya realized with a shock that went through her whole body. She believed him. More than that, she understood him. He changed for her. Truly changed. Not because she'd asked, but because he wanted to be someone worthy of her. Someone she could look at without fear. Someone she could maybe, possibly, impossibly care about. Carlos, she said softly. He pulled back, looked down at her. I don't hate you anymore, she said. The words came out small and scared and true. I know I should. I know it doesn't make sense, but I don't. Carlos's eyes went wide, then soft, then blazing. Say that again. I don't hate you, Amaya repeated. You kidnapped me. You kept me prisoner. You should be the villain in my story. But you're not. Not anymore. You're complicated and dangerous and possessive and terrifying. But you're also protective and gentle, and you listen to me, and you change for me, and I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything with it.
Carlos said. His hands cupped her face, tilted it up. You just have to let me keep you. Let me keep protecting you. Keep caring for you. Keep being yours. Being mine, Amaya repeated. You said I'm yours. You are, Carlos agreed. But I'm yours too. The moment I claimed you, you claimed me right back. You just didn't know it yet. Every time you stood up to me, every time you challenged me, every time you made me better, you were claiming me, changing me, making me yours. His forehead touched hers. I've never been anyone's before, Amaya. I've owned people, used people, controlled people. But no one has ever owned me back. Not until you. I don't want to own you, Amaya said. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. She did want him. Some part of her wanted him completely. His attention, his protection, his obsessive, terrifying devotion. When had that happened? When had the prisoner started wanting the cage? Yes, you do, Carlos said. He smiled. And that's okay, because I want you to. I want you to own every piece of me. I want to be yours the way you're mine, completely, exclusively, forever. Forever is a long time, Amaya whispered. Not long enough, Carlos whispered back. Then he kissed her. It was nothing like she expected. Nothing rough or demanding or forceful. It was gentle, reverent, like she was precious, like she was everything. Amaya's brain screamed at her to pull away, to remember that this was wrong, that this was Stockholm Syndrome, that this was a kidnapper kissing his victim. But her heart didn't care about any of that. Her heart only knew that this felt right, that his hands on her face
Felt safe, that his lips on hers felt like home. She kissed him back. It was a surrender, an acceptance, an acknowledgement that somewhere in the past 3 weeks, she'd stopped being just his prisoner and started being his. And he'd stopped being just her captor and started being hers. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Carlos looked at her with wonder. You're mine now, he said. For real. Not just because I claimed you, but because you chose me back. I must be crazy, Amaya said, but she was smiling. Completely insane, Carlos agreed. He was smiling too. But you're mine, and I'm yours, and that's all that matters. Marco cleared his throat from across the room. Both of them had forgotten he was there. Boss, Isabella just got home. She's asking for you. Carlos nodded, didn't take his eyes off Amaya. Tell her I'll be there in 5 minutes. Marco left. Carlos turned back to Amaya. Come with me, he said. Meet Isabella properly, not as my prisoner, as my... He paused, searched for the word. As your what? Amaya asked. Everything, Carlos said simply. As my everything. And Amaya, despite every logical thought in her brain, despite every reason she should run, took his hand. Let him lead her out of the office. Let him bring her into his family. Let herself fall completely into the impossible, irrational, dangerous love that had grown between them. Because sometimes the wrong girl in the wrong place at the wrong time turns out to be exactly right. And sometimes the monster is also the man. And sometimes the cage is also the freedom. And sometimes love doesn't make sense. It just is. Isabella was beautiful, tall and elegant with dark hair and Carlos's same intense eyes. When Carlos brought Amaya into the living room where Isabella waited, Isabella looked at their joined hands, then at Carlos's face, then at Amaya, and she smiled. So you're the girl who changed my brother, Isabella said. Her voice was warm, kind. I heard about you, the smart one, the brave one, the one who got kidnapped by mistake and decided to stay anyway. I didn't decide to stay, Amaya said. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Isabella said. She walked closer, studied Amaya's face. You could fight him every day. Make yourself difficult. Impossible. Instead, Marco tells me you work with Carlos. Help him. Challenge him. That's a choice, Amaya. Maybe not a conscious one yet, but it's still a choice. Amaya opened her mouth to argue, closed it. Isabella was right. She had chosen. Every time she solved a problem for Carlos, every time she talked him out of violence, every time she let him into her room at night, she'd been choosing him. I'm scared, Amaya admitted quietly. I'm scared of what it means that I don't hate him anymore. Isabella's expression softened. That's good. Fear means you're thinking. Awareness is important. But can I give you some advice? Please, Amaya said. My brother is not an easy man, Isabella said. He's possessive and controlling and dangerous. He'll never let you go. Never. Once Carlos claims something, it's his forever. Our father was the same way. It's in the blood, in the bones. You need to understand that if you accept him, you accept all of that. I know, Amaya said. But, Isabella continued, he's also loyal and protective, and he'll move heaven and earth to make you happy. He'll burn down the world before he lets anyone hurt you. He'll change himself, his business, his entire life, if that's what you need. And that's rare, Amaya. That kind of devotion is so rare. It's also terrifying, Amaya said. Isabella laughed. Yes, terrifying and wonderful. That's love in this world. That's what it means to be loved by a man like Carlos. She reached out and squeezed Amaya's hand. Thank you, by the way, for saving me. Carlos told me what you did, how you found Antonio, how you convinced Carlos to handle it legally. You saved my life and my freedom. I won't forget that. You're welcome, Amaya said. Isabella looked at Carlos. I like her. Keep her. I plan to, Carlos said. His hand tightened on Amaya's. Forever. Good, Isabella said. Now I'm exhausted. FBI interrogations are terrible. I'm going to sleep for a week. But tomorrow, Amaya, you and I are having coffee. I want to know everything about the girl who did the impossible. What impossible? Amaya asked. Isabella smiled as she walked toward the stairs. Made my brother human again. Then she was gone. Carlos and Amaya stood in the quiet living room. The sun was starting to rise outside, pink and gold light filtering through the windows. A new day. She's right, you know, Carlos said. About what? Amaya asked. About me keeping you forever, Carlos said. He turned her to face him, pulled her close. I need you to understand something, Amaya. I'm never letting you go. Never. Not next month, not next year, not in 50 years. You're mine for the rest of my life. And if that scares you, if that makes you want to run, tell me now. Because once you accept this, once you accept me, there's no going back. Amaya looked up at him, at his dark eyes, his beautiful, dangerous face, the face of the man who'd kidnapped her, who'd kept her prisoner, who'd also protected her and listened to her and changed for her. I'm not running, she said. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. I'm not saying I fully understand this yet. I'm not saying it makes sense. But I'm not running. Why not? Carlos asked. His voice was rough with emotion. Because, Amaya said slowly, working through her feelings even as she spoke them. Because you see me, really see me. Not just my brain or my looks or what I can do for you. You see all of me, the smart parts and the scared parts and the brave parts. And you value all of it. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody's ever looked at me the way you do. Like I'm the sun and the moon and every star. Like I'm everything. And maybe that's manipulation. Maybe that's just your possessive nature. But it feels real. And I've spent my whole life in laboratories and libraries where nothing felt real, where everything was abstract and distant and safe. And you're not safe, but you're real. And I think I need that more than I need safe. Carlos's eyes went bright. His hands trembled where they held her. Say you're mine, he said. Say it for real this time. Not because you have to, because you choose to. Amaya took a deep breath, let it out, said the words that would change everything. I'm yours, Carlos. For real. By choice. Completely. Carlos made a sound between a laugh and a sob. He picked her up, spun her around. When he set her down, he was smiling so wide it made him look young, joyful. Say you're mine too, Amaya said. I need to hear it. I'm yours, Carlos said immediately. I've been yours since the moment I saw you. Since the moment I realized you were the wrong girl who turned out to be the only right thing in my entire life. I'm yours, Amaya. My heart, my loyalty, my protection, my everything, all yours. He kissed her again, deeper this time, more certain. And Amaya kissed him back with everything she had. This was insane, impossible, wrong by every logical standard. But it was also right. Right in a way that transcended logic. Right in a way that lived in the heart and the gut and the soul. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Carlos said, I need to ask you something. What? Amaya said. I want you to work with Isabella, Carlos said. She runs the legitimate side of my business, the gallery, the import company, the parts that are clean and legal and growing. I want you there, using your brain, building something, not just solving my problems, but creating something beautiful. Would you do that? Amaya blinked. You're offering me a job? A real job? Yes, Carlos said, with a real salary, real purpose. You'll work with Isabella on expanding the gallery. We're thinking of adding a science wing, interactive exhibits about the brain and space and all the things you love, your ideas, your vision. You'd be building something that matters. But I'd still be here, Amaya said. Still in your house, still yours. Yes, Carlos admitted. I'm not letting you leave, not ever. But I can give you purpose, freedom within boundaries, a life that's more than just being my prisoner. Would that be enough? Amaya thought about it, really thought. She could demand complete freedom, could insist on leaving, but she knew Carlos wouldn't let her. And more than that, she wasn't sure she wanted to leave anymore. Not really. It would be a start, Amaya said carefully. But Carlos, I need more than just work. I need to see my family eventually, talk to my friends, have a life outside these walls, even if I always come back to you. Carlos's jaw tightened. She could see the refusal forming, the possessive instinct rising. Please, she added, you said you'd give me anything I need. I need this. I need to not completely disappear from the world. I need people to know I'm okay, that I'm alive, that I chose this. The word chose seemed to reach him. His expression softened slightly. Supervised visits, he finally said. With guards, with protection, and only people I approve. People who won't try to take you from me or convince you to leave. That's not freedom, Amaya said. That's what I can give, Carlos said. His voice was firm. I'm trying, Amaya. I'm trying to be better, to give you more. But I can't risk losing you. I can't risk someone hurting you or taking you away. This is the compromise. Take it, or we stay as we are. Amaya studied his face, saw the fear there underneath the control. He was genuinely terrified of losing her. That possessiveness wasn't just about ownership. It was about terror, about the possibility that she might leave and he'd be alone again. "Okay," she said. "Supervised visits. But I get to call my parents, tell them I'm safe, that I'm happy. Even if I can't tell them everything, I need them to hear my voice." "Done," Carlos said immediately. Relief flooded his face. "You can call them today if you want. I'll be there, but you can talk to them." "And one more thing," Amaya said. She was pushing her luck, but she had to try. "What?" Carlos asked warily. "Eventually, when enough time has passed and you trust me more, I want real freedom. Not leaving you, but freedom to go to the store alone, to walk in the park, to exist in the world without guards watching my every move. I want you to trust me enough to know I'll always come back to you." Carlos was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Eventually, when I can breathe without worrying, someone will take you. When the threats are handled and the danger is less, then yes, I'll work toward that. For you." It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what she would have chosen if she'd had real choice. But it was something. It was progress. It was Carlos trying to meet her halfway even when every instinct in him screamed to lock her away completely. "Thank you," Amaya said. She kissed him softly. "For trying. For changing. For being willing to grow." "Only for you," Carlos murmured against her lips. "I'd only do this for you." They spent the rest of the morning together. Carlos showed her parts of the house she hadn't seen. The real parts. His mother's old studio where she used to paint. His father's library full of old books. The rooftop garden where you could see the entire city spread out below. He told her stories about growing up in this world, about losing his mother young, about the weight of inheriting an empire built on violence and fear, about wanting to be different but not knowing how. And Amaya listened, really listened, saw him not just as the dangerous mafia boss, but as a man. A complicated, damaged, trying man who wanted to be better but didn't know how until she showed him. They called her parents that afternoon. Amaya's hand shook as she dialed. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Hello?" "Mom," Amaya said. Her voice cracked. "It's me." "Amaya." "Oh my God, Amaya, where are you? We've been so worried. The university said you had a family emergency, but you never called. And your phone went straight to voicemail, and—" "I'm okay, Mom," Amaya interrupted. She felt Carlos's hand on her shoulder. Steady, grounding. "I'm safe. I'm sorry I worried you. Things happened very fast." "What things? Where are you? Are you coming home?" her mother demanded. Amaya looked at Carlos. He looked back at her, waiting, trusting her. "I'm staying with someone," Amaya said carefully. "Someone important to me. I can't explain everything right now, but I'm safe. I'm happy. I'm working on an amazing project. I just needed you to know I'm okay." "With someone?" "Amaya, you're scaring me. This doesn't sound like you. Are you in trouble? Do you need help?" "No," Amaya said firmly. "No trouble. No help needed. I know this is sudden. I know it's confusing. But I need you to trust me, Mom. Can you do that? Can you trust that I know what I'm doing?" There was a long silence on the other end. Then her mother said, quietly, "Are you safe? Really safe? Not just saying it?" "Really safe," Amaya said. She meant it. With Carlos, she was safe, protected, valued. It was complicated and wrong and twisted, but it was true. "Then okay," her mother said. She didn't sound convinced, but she was trying. But you call me every week, every single week, Amaya. And if you need anything, if you need me, you call and I'll come get you. No questions asked. I will, Amaya promised. I love you, Mom. Tell Dad I love him too. We love you too, baby, her mother said. Then softer, just be careful. I will, Amaya said again. They hung up. Amaya sat very still. Carlos knelt down in front of her, took her hands. You did good, he said. That was hard, but you did good. She's scared, Amaya said. She thinks I'm in danger. You're not, Carlos said firmly. You're the safest person in this entire city. I promise you that. Amaya nodded. She believed him. That should have scared her more than it did. The weeks turned into months. Amaya worked with Isabella on the gallery's new science wing. It was brilliant work, creative and challenging and meaningful. She designed exhibits about neural pathways and memory formation, about the physics of light and color in art, about the intersection of creativity and cognition. Isabella was a wonderful partner, sharp and funny and kind. They became real friends, sisters almost. Isabella told Amaya stories about Carlos as a boy, about how protective he'd always been, how he'd beaten up kids who bullied her in school, how he'd worked 3 jobs as a teenager to keep them fed after their mother died, how their father had tried to make him cruel and cold, but something in Carlos had resisted, had stayed human. He needed someone like you, Isabella said one day over coffee in her office. Someone strong enough to stand up to him, but gentle enough to show him another way. I'm glad he found you, even if the circumstances were insane. They were definitely insane, Amaya agreed. She smiled. But I'm glad too. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to be glad I was kidnapped? Probably, Isabella said with a laugh. But love is often wrong, often impossible, often completely insane. And yet, it's still love. Love, the word hung in the air. Amaya hadn't said it to Carlos yet, hadn't let herself fully think it. But it was there, growing, undeniable. She loved him, loved his intensity and his protection and his devastating honesty. Loved the way he looked at her like she was his entire world. Loved the way he listened when she talked about science. The way he brought her books and telescopes and everything she mentioned even once. Loved the way he was trying so hard to be better, to build a legitimate empire, to move away from the violence of his father's generation. It was love, terrifying, possessive, all-consuming love, but love nonetheless. That night, when Carlos came to her room like he did every night, Amaya was waiting. She'd moved into a bigger room months ago, one with space for her books and her telescope and her research. It was hers, truly hers, even though everything in this house was technically Carlos's. Hi, Carlos said. He smiled when he saw her. That smile that was only for her. Soft and real and unguarded. Hi, Amaya said. She stood up from her desk, walked to him, put her arms around his neck. I need to tell you something. What? Carlos asked. His hands settled on her waist. Automatic, natural, like they belonged there. I love you, Amaya said. The words came out clear and sure. I'm in love with you, Carlos. I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe gradually. Maybe all at once. But it's real. It's true. And I needed you to know. Carlos's eyes went wide, then blazing, then soft. He lifted her up. She wrapped her legs around his waist. He held her like she weighed nothing, like she was precious. Say it again, he demanded. His voice was rough. I love you, Amaya repeated. She cupped his face. I love you, even though you kidnapped me. even though you're dangerous and possessive, and you'll never let me go. I love you because of who you are when you're with me, because of who you're trying to become, because you're mine and I'm yours, and that's all that matters. I love you, Carlos said. His voice broke on the words. God, Amaya, I love you so much. It terrifies me. I've loved you since the moment I saw you, since you asked me brave questions even though you were scared, since you stood up to me and made me better. You're everything, my whole world, my whole life. I love you. He kissed her, deep and claiming and desperate, and Amaya kissed him back with everything she had. This was it. This was the moment. She'd fully surrendered, fully accepted. She was his, and he was hers, completely, forever. Later, lying in bed together, Carlos traced patterns on her skin. Marry me, he said suddenly. Amaya lifted her head, looked at him. What? Marry me, Carlos repeated. He wasn't asking. He was stating, claiming. I need you to be mine forever, legally, officially, in every way that matters. Marry me, Amaya. That's not a proposal, Amaya said, but she was smiling. That's a demand. I'm not good at asking, Carlos admitted. I'm better at taking. But I'm trying. For you. So let me try again. He sat up, took both her hands, looked into her eyes with that devastating intensity. Amaya Jones, you are the smartest, bravest, most magnificent person I've ever met. You changed me, saved me, made me want to be better than what I was. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anything. Will you marry me? Will you stay with me forever? Not as a captive, but as my wife, my partner, my everything? Amaya's eyes filled with tears, happy tears. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Carlos pulled a ring from the bedside table. Where had that come from? How long had he been planning this? It was beautiful. A simple band with a dark blue stone that looked like the night sky. Perfect for her. He slid it onto her finger. You're mine now, he said. Forever. Officially. I was already yours, Amaya said. She kissed him. But now you're officially mine too. Forever. Forever, Carlos agreed. He pulled her close, held her tight. I promise I'll spend every day of forever making you happy, keeping you safe, loving you with everything I have. I know, Amaya said. She did know. She trusted him completely. It was insane. It was impossible. It was true. They married 3 months later. Small ceremony. Just Isabella and Marco and Maria and a handful of Carlos's most trusted people. Amaya wore a simple white dress. Carlos wore a black suit. They said their vows in the rooftop garden with the city spread out below them. I promise to protect you, Carlos said, to value you, to listen to you, to keep changing and growing and becoming better for you, to love you with everything I am for as long as I live. I promise to challenge you, Amaya said, to stand beside you, to help you build something good and true, to be your conscience and your partner in your home, to love you completely for as long as I live. They kissed, husband and wife. Captor and captive turned into something else, something more, something real. Marco, stone-faced Marco, actually smiled, a real smile. The boss is happy, he said to Amaya later at the small reception. I've never seen him like this. You did that. He makes me happy too, Amaya said. Even though it has started wrong, it became right. Does that make sense? In this world, yes, Marco said. In this world, it makes perfect sense. Isabella hugged Amaya tight. Welcome to the family officially. You're my sister now, my real sister. Thank you, Amaya said, for accepting me, for helping me, for being my friend. Thank you for saving my brother, Isabella said, for showing him he could be more than our father's son. You gave him a future instead of just a legacy. Maria, sweet Maria, who'd been there from the beginning, cried happy tears. I told you, she said to Amaya. I told you he only protects what he loves. And look at you now, so loved, so protected, so happy. You were right, Amaya admitted, about everything. That night, in their room, Carlos held Amaya close. Do you have any regrets? He asked quietly. About how this started? About saying yes? Amaya thought about it. Really thought. No, she finally said. I should. I know I should. But I don't. Because if I hadn't been the wrong girl in that van, I never would have met you. Never would have found this. Found us. And I wouldn't trade us for anything. Even your freedom? Carlos asked. His voice was careful, vulnerable. You gave me a different kind of freedom, Amaya said. She turned to face him. Freedom to be myself. To be valued for my brain and my heart and everything I am. Freedom from loneliness. From feeling invisible. You see me, Carlos. Really see me. And that's worth more than any other kind of freedom. Carlos's eyes were bright. I love you. I love you too, Amaya said. My wrong girl, Carlos murmured. My right obsession. Your only obsession, Amaya corrected. Forever, Carlos agreed. Forever. They fell asleep tangled together. Safe. Complete. Home. The wrong girl who became the right wife. The mafia boss who became a man. The kidnapping that became a love story. It was dark. It was twisted. It was completely insane by any normal standard. But it was theirs. And it was real. And it was forever. 3 years later, Amaya stood in the science wing of the gallery at its grand opening. The exhibits she designed were beautiful, interactive displays. About the brain, about memory, about how we process love and fear and everything in between. Carlos stood beside her, his hand on her lower back, possessive, protective, always touching, always there. Isabella gave a speech about innovation and art and science, about building something meaningful, about legacy. The crowd applauded. Reporters took photos. It was legitimate, real, everything they'd worked for. You did this, Carlos whispered in Amaya's ear. You built this. Made it real. We built it, Amaya corrected. Together. Together, Carlos agreed. He kissed her temple. Always together. Marco stood nearby, still stone-faced, still watching, still protecting. But there was something softer in his eyes now. Something almost like contentment. Maria had retired last year, but she'd come for the opening. She hugged Amaya tight. Look at you. Look at what you've become. I knew from the very beginning you were special. Thank you for believing in me, Amaya said, for being kind when I was scared. That's what family does, Maria said simply. Family. That's what this had become. This strange, impossible, beautiful family built from darkness and choice and love. That night, back home in their bedroom, Carlos pulled Amaya close. Do you ever miss it? He asked. Miss what? Your old life. Before me. Before this. When you were just a student with a simple life. Amaya was quiet for a moment. No, she finally said. That life was small. Safe. But empty. This life is big. Dangerous sometimes. But full. So full. I'm happier now than I ever was before. Even though I kidnapped you, Carlos said. It wasn't a question, just a statement. The truth they both lived with. Even though, Amaya agreed, maybe especially because it brought me to you, and you're worth everything. Carlos held her tighter. I grabbed the wrong girl that night. I know, Amaya said. Best mistake I ever made, Carlos continued, because the wrong girl turned out to be the only right thing in my entire life. Amaya smiled against his chest. The wrong girl and the right obsession. My obsession, Carlos murmured. Mine now, Amaya said. All mine. All yours, Carlos agreed. Forever. And it was. Forever. Dark and bright. Wrong and right. Impossible and inevitable. Their love story written in shadows and starlight. The black beauty and the mafia boss. The prisoner and the captor. The wife and the husband. Wrong girl. Right obsession. Perfect love. He kidnapped her. He terrified her. He claimed her entirely. But in the most dangerous of all men, Amaya found the only place she was ever truly safe, valued, and loved. Carlos Marcello chose to change the trajectory of his entire world, all for the wrong girl, who became his right obsession. If this complex, dark love that defied every rule touched your heart, and subscribe to get more stories like this. Did Amaya's choice make her a prisoner or finally set her free? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for embracing their impossible forever.